I am a little late today. Do forgive some, yeah, lots happening. It's a lot to get here sometimes, but it's worth it because I love uh, our little collection, our little community of people. Let's see. I am hoping that this is working. I think it is, but you never know. So I could be just talking to myself. Hopefully not. All right. It looks like maybe Instagram is not working, but I don't think Instagram is ever working. So no big surprise. All right. So I am curious if anybody has anything they want to be coached on today. If you do, please put it in the chat box. Ultimately, these are in service to you guys and what you hope for me to speak to. I always try to come with a couple of topics to talk about. And I would love for you guys to, just really share what and where you are being challenged currently in your journey as a trader. It could be trading related. It doesn't have to be. It can be really on any topic that you're struggling with. What really matters to me is that you guys find this to be valuable to you in your life. I'm going to put up a link to my acceleration course. This is a course that, it's our third cohort. This will be my third one. I've had such an incredible journey because I've had such dedicated traders come to this, and it's just been really a powerful, interesting, different kind of experience. So if you guys are looking for some magic in your trading and you want to really get to the bottom of, what's happening for you, where you could possibly be in your own way, then I really hope you'll consider it. I'm so glad you're here, Tina. Glad you are here. Good to have you. All right, so that is the link to the acceleration course. And if you're interested in finding out more, check that out. You can always DM me on Twitter, of course, too. And we'll try to get you whatever information you guys have, any questions you may have. So, yeah, I'm just curious what, if anything, you guys want to address. And I just want to speak. I do monthly live coaching for Investors Underground. I was in that room today, and we had some really great questions from the traders. And one of the topics that came up that I thought I would carry over into this conversation today was a question about a trader who was struggling at staying true to their strategy. And, every time I coach people, sometimes the question or the problem is the same question. And sometimes there is a different energy that a specific trader is coming to the conversation with. So in my coach training, one of the things they really stressed and taught us was how important it was for us to really listen from a place of neutrality and to never presume, even if we've heard the same question before, even if we've heard the same problem before or challenge before, to not presume that a different person who brings it up is coming from the same place. So in other words, it is a place really, truly of vulnerability and uncertainty. And that the most success you can have coaching a client is when you come with a blank slate, so to speak, with a beginner's mind, because then you can hear what might be going on for that person as opposed to what is going on, let's say, for all the other people that ask that question. So that is my job as a coach, is to try to make sure that I'm coming from a place of neutrality when I coach somebody. And one of the things that we were taught in the beginning, when we first started the training, when I started my training, was there was this conversation, each, particular kind of, there's a style and or an experience of coaching. There's multiple spheres, if you will. There's multiple spokes, if you will. And I remember, 3 or 4 or 5 weeks into it, we would be introduced to a different concept, and they would, be very strict about, we're going to have you practice this particular style of coaching, and we don't want you to use these other styles you've learned about. And I remember being frustrated, thinking, why not? Why wouldn't I be able to use them? And it was because they wanted us to develop the discipline of that particular style. There's a point here, I promised all you who are like, what is she talking about? But that was, and I think this is applicable to trading as well. When you are learning a new style, when you are learning potentially a strategy that is unique to you, you have to put your focus into it. You have to kind of be single-minded, because it's easy to get distracted and easy to be thrown off, kilter. And you want to get good at that strategy. So it really has to get all your time and attention. So long story short, what happens in this training was that, we come to the end of this multi-strict kind of experience. And the last class, what it was titled? In the Bones. What that meant is, and they gave us this kind of mandate as that training began, now you can use any of the styles you have learned, any of the styles you have been disciplined enough to practice full out. And we want you now to completely go in any and all directions you need to. I think that also lends true for traders. If you trade a particular style, if you trade a particular strategy for long enough and become really kind of an expert in that style or strategy, you are then in a position to perhaps learn another one. And if you do that consistently for, let's say, 10 years, a decade or more, what happens over time is you will be able to potentially have different strategies for different market cycles and be prepared for all of them. So that being said, what I'm bringing it up for with regards to that trader earlier today is that one of the things that I felt was being spoken to in that moment was something that was kind of unusual. And, I prepared the client that I was about to ask an unusual question. And I want to pose that question to all of you. I want everybody here, whoever's listening, to think about a particular place in their life or in their trading that they are challenged by. I want you to think of wow, if I had a magic wand, Kim, and I could wave it over this one place in my life, be it your trading, be it discipline, be it your fear of missing out, be it being able to cut your losses, be it that it's a relationship that isn't good for you, be it that it's a discipline around exercise or nutrition or giving up booze, whatever it is, guys, I want you to think about that. And now I'm going to pose a question, the question I posed earlier, but I think I'm going to sneeze first, excuse me. Here's the question. So hopefully everybody has this challenge that they're struggling with in their head right now. And here's what I want to ask you. What is the payoff for you to stay in that experience? So if you are losing all the time and you can't seem to get past it, what's the payoff for being a loser? What's the payoff for not being disciplined? What's the payoff to anything? Thank you so much, Cynthia. That's so sweet of you. So sweet. She just wished me bless. She said, bless you because I sneezed. Thank you, Cynthia. That's so sweet of you. So that's my question to you guys. And if you're open to it, I'd love you to put the answer in the chat box. So this is a bit, of a mind twist. What I'm implying is that we each, no matter what we're behaving like, no matter what we're doing, there's usually some sort of payoff that we get in return for costly actions, for costly behavior, right? So I'll elaborate. So, for example, let's say that you succeed in your trades for a particular period of time or have a big win. You have a big win. But inevitably, after that big win, you have a big loss. Now, if that happens once in a while, okay, that's one thing. But if it happens consistently, if it happens over and over again, then it's possible you have a self-sabotaging experience happening. And so this is what I would want you to look at in that moment. I want you to ask yourself, what could be the payoff of losing? And it is kind of an odd question because it feels so counterintuitive. But here are a couple of thoughts, and this is the place that I want you guys to start to look. Well, people would feel bad for you, possibly, right? People would perhaps not be intimidated by you because what you won, what you earned, you lost. People might, your other trading tribe, your other trading colleagues might think that you don't really have it down yet, and they will continue to be a contribution to you. They will continue to help you, mentor you, support you, encourage you. And it's possible that if you start to do really well, that collection of people, that collection of support will be jealous, will leave you, will not support you, will be upset with you, even though they may not say it. You could have a fear that you will lose them and their support and their encouragement because there's a part of you, perhaps from your past, that experienced people leaving you when things went well. I know for myself and the journey that I had when I was little, I was definitely not going to be safe if my lighthouse or the spotlight, I got the spotlight. If I got the spotlight, it meant somebody else in my family wasn't going to get the spotlight. And that was extremely difficult for that family member. So I learned at an early age, I was not safe to get the spotlight. I would not be safe to shine too brightly. So I better dial it back to just bright enough where it didn't potentially threaten or intimidate or rob the spotlight from that other family member. So that's what I want you guys to start to think about. Are there places in your trading, in your life, where you have a story, where you have an invisible kind of leash that keeps you in a repetitive, costly cycle because there is a payoff in staying stuck? And in that payoff, you feel much more at home, much more secure, much less threatened. There's a great saying that says, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. There are often times where we will keep ourselves under a glass ceiling because we don't want to go above to another place that we don't know anything about. So Cynthia thinks it's a great question to ask. I'm glad you agree. And then Cynthia says, love that question. I will need to meditate on this. Eric says, the devil wears Prada. Though I'm not sure what you mean by that. Eric, please elaborate. People like Prada. Not sure still what you mean by that, but I'm sure you'll elaborate. Good to have you here, Eric. Good to have you here too, Cynthia. So the heart of this is you want to start to approach whatever is happening in your trading, in your life. And I want you to start to just think about what are the stories that are invisibly afoot. Yeah, I get that it's a movie, but I'm not sure what the reference to The Devil Wears Prada has to do with what I just said. So just let me know if you want me to address it, and if not, that's okay. So what ultimately is here is that you guys want to think about not just the stories that are potentially costly to you, that are invisible, but even the stories that right now you think serve you, that you think might actually be of value to you. Like this is like a standard one, right? That productivity is a good thing. Like there's a whole bunch of like little proverbs that speak about hard work and having a work ethic, and how that is something that is respected, or you could have self-respect about that. Like all of us have a collection of these kind of like little proverbs or beliefs or sayings or perspectives. And what I invite you to do is start to write them all down. Start to really pay attention to all of the ones that you have, and consider that all of them possibly are not self-chosen. It's possible that a lot of these are ones that you just inherited. I think I'm going to say this again. Excuse me. I don't know what's going on? I'm sneezing a lot. All right. So Cynthia says, yes, I'm totally stuck in thinking that I need to work hard to gain something. Cynthia, that is a very popular belief. And that is actually the other topic that came up today on Investors Underground, was this concept of, making sure that one doesn't fail today, right? Making sure one succeeds at being productive in a day. And that also is just a concept, a story that we've been taught, right? It's almost as though I need to struggle. That's it, Cynthia, in a nutshell. A lot of us have been trained because, first of all, the puritanical work ethic, if you think about where that kind of comes from, all right, a lot of it comes out of the Industrial Revolution, right? There's a fantastic book called The Linchpin by Seth Godin, who talks about this. That book, Linchpin, is so good, guys. The subtitle is Are You Indispensable? And he's speaking about this from the standpoint of you either working in a company or working on your own. And I would say, dare I say it, you have to also always ask yourself that as well. As a trader, you have to ask yourself, are you indispensable? Are you somebody who, the subtitle to that book is, what is it again? Are you indispensable is a subtitle to Linchpin. What he's saying is that in today's world, all of us have to be linchpins or we're not going to have a job, right? And even now, even more so, he wrote that book 15 years ago, but now even more, are you indispensable because of AI? So ultimately, what he speaks about in that book, and is in line to what you're saying there, Cynthia, about needing to struggle, is that, and this is also in Celeste Headley's book called Do Nothing, which is such a great book, which talks specifically about this kind of conditioning and brainwashing we've all received. And so anyway, linchpin Seth Godin talks at length about how the public school system was specifically created to facilitate putting kids at an early age into a factory working mindset. So that ultimately what he speaks to is that they were running out of having enough people to take care of these factories. And so they were realizing because, at that time, what we had were farmers, right? And farmers were coming, they were rising with the sun, they were working a certain lifestyle that isn't just produce, right? There's the harvest, there's the fallow soil where it has to recover. There's like all of these kinds of experiences that a farmer has that he's not going to have when he goes into a factory. And because this redundant, repetitive behavior that these factory workers were going through was so mind-numbing to these former farmers, they actually used to push gin carts up and down the factory floors to get a little bit of inebriation upon their workforce because they were just so burnt out by the repetition of what they had to do each day. And so Seth Godin speaks in Linchpin about, they realized at a certain point, these factories, they were going to have to prepare kids for this factory kind of lifestyle. And that is where the public schools came from. So if you think about it, this concept of needing to struggle, needing to be productive is coming from a place without really coming what's in our best interest, right? Coming for those organizations or companies to just keep having us produce. And this is addressed also in Do Nothing by Celeste Headley. And what she's talking about is that ultimately our ability to do nothing today is often interrupted by guilt, often interrupted internally. We feel guilty, we feel ashamed, we feel like I'm not being productive, something's wrong with me. And then in another book that I'm reading now called Uncertain, Maggie Johnson talks about it's actually in those moments where we aren't busy that our brain actually starts to weave together a tapestry of all the learnings that we have just come from, that we are currently stepping into. So, this is a lot of books, and I know not everybody reads, quite as much as I like to read, and that's okay. But I think all of these books point to us being able to potentially unhook ourselves from this I have to work hard, I have to struggle mentality. It's not helping us, and it's doing us a disservice. And, that being said, I'm not advocating that people don't, honor their own values. But what I am suggesting is there is this toxic productivity kind of mindset that our culture is really addicted to. And here's another book, forgive me, but there's a great book called Never Enough. And it talks about our culture's current, overemphasis on us being productive and how a lot of parents have kind of, they've come from this place of thinking they aren't being good parents if they aren't encouraging their kids to be productive. I grew up in the late 70s and 80s, and I remember it was probably happening in the generation right after me, but I remember a lot of my friends and their children, they were putting them in ballet class, violin class, language classes, soccer. The kids were going 24/7. They didn't have a minute to breathe. It was extracurricular this, extracurricular that. When did the kids ever get time to play? They didn't get time to play. And that, I believe, is truly because of this overarching emphasis on productivity that's really come about most abundantly in the last 25 to 50 years. So that book, the title eludes me at this moment. I'm just trying to remember. I think it's called is it Toxic Achievement? Never Enough. That's the name of it. It's called Never Enough: When Achievement Culture Becomes Toxic and What We Can Do About it. So here's that book, guys. I don't know, it's backwards, I guess. Never Enough. And I really do see that happen, not just to traders, but also to traders who are coming from a different, position. Especially traders who are coming from any industry where that concept of being an overachiever is rewarded. I mean, I think back to the days when I worked at the hedge funds. Guys, I was at my desk sometimes at 6:30, 6:45. I was definitely at my desk by 7 a.m. And I had 3 meals a day. It was a fancy kitchen, and we could order take in to the office from any restaurant in New York City, which was definitely a perk. But I'll tell you, what was a perk is getting the hell out of there and eating dinner someplace else. But I would have my breakfast there, my lunch there, and my dinner. Usually it was a 12-hour day, a standard day. And part of the culture, not just at that hedge fund, but at all the finance firms, was that is how you work. I even slept with my BlackBerry. This was back in the day, but you were expected to be on. Now, granted, not every position back then or even today expects that, but a lot of them do. It's become kind of like the norm. And what I see often is that a lot of people who go into trading are taking that behavior with them. I have to tell you, even though there is no doubt there is so much hard work involved in becoming a trader, no doubt it's about screen time, no doubt it's about learning pattern recognition. All of these things are true. Not going to ever diminish any of it. But there are so many traders, they don't get enough sleep at night. Their ability to be cognitive and to have that tapestry of all that they learn, all that they are spending time on absorbing, isn't getting to go deep into their brain, into the places that are going to help them become excellent traders. And you can learn about that because there's scientific data left and right, not only in Celeste Headley's book, Do Nothing, but also in Maggie Johnson's book, Uncertain. Her subtitle is The Wisdom and Wonder of Being Unsure. And she talks about how our uncertainty is often a gift, and it is actually the place where our brain starts to light up. It's when we are so sure of ourselves that we are actually cutting ourselves off from our imagination, from previous experiences and memories that actually help us weave together a brand new potential opportunity or vision, or see something that we otherwise would not have been able to see. It is this book, Uncertain. I have probably sent no less than 25 to 30 emails to previous clients, friends, colleagues, respected leaders to let everybody know about this book. This book packs such a wallop. I am not even fit, and I don't know if you guys do this on Kindle. I have the book on Kindle, but I have 201 highlights. I have 27 pages, guys, 27 pages of highlights from this book, and I'm not even done yet. It is absolutely amazing. I'm very excited that Maggie is going to come on my podcast. I think it is a no-brainer for traders to read this. The book is called Uncertain: The Wisdom and Wonder of Being Unsure. And I'm looking here because I know I have it on my phone. I took a picture because when I sent that email out to all of these people, I was like, guys, here is that book. It's a must read. Here it is. It'll be backwards again, but at least you guys can see what it looks like. Uncertain, the wisdom and wonder of being unsure by Mackie Jackson. And she's going to come on my podcast. When is she coming on? I think she comes on, it's in March at some point. So anyway, she'll be here. She'll be on the podcast soon. I hope you guys will watch that. So long story short, I'm speaking today about a couple of things, but always at all times, please come in, put your challenge, you could have a brag, you could have a challenge. I want this to also be a space, not just where you speak the challenges, but where you feel comfortable bragging. If you guys had success in your trades, if you had success in some other place in your life, I don't want you to dial it back here. I want you to feel comfortable to share it. I want you to feel comfortable to be like, all that in a bag of chips. I want you guys to get comfortable bragging. I learned about the power of bragging from Mama Gina. She's one of my teachers, and she, it was her school of the womanly arts. It was for women only. It was such a powerful course. She does a lot of her work now still online. I think she still does some stuff in person, but she talked about how often our culture today, for women in particular, but for men and women, we don't brag. We don't get encouraged to express what we did well. We've been taught, again, to kind of like dial back. Don't look like you're too full of yourself. Don't look like you're too self-absorbed. If you, I don't know if you guys have heard this proverb. I know I grew up with it. Like, if you say something good about yourself and what you did well, you better be looking over your shoulder for the other shoe to drop. So like, if you're in danger, as if you're in danger by bragging, as if you might get hurt because you say something positive or celebrate a win about yourself. So my hope is, and that's what my trader event hotline is about. It's a place for you to say something good about yourself, a win that you had. Look, when you guys have wins as traders, it's really hard to celebrate that with somebody who doesn't understand what you're doing, because they could hear this huge dollar amount and be like, what? Like, you made how much? But then you guys know that there's losses coming soon right after as well. So yes, bragging is definitely frowned upon, and we've been made to feel ashamed of it. So thanks to what I learned with my teacher, bragging is so important. So how about that? How about I put that out right now? A little challenge to everybody. I would like everybody to brag. I would like everybody right now to, wherever you're watching this, I think we've got it on YouTube, we've got it on LinkedIn, we've got it on Facebook and X and YouTube. Did I already said that? I think I want you guys to brag. I want you to say just one thing that is a brag. Whether it's like, I treated well today, I took a risk that I normally didn't take. I didn't eat an extra donut at breakfast. I filled up my gas tank before it was on E. That's my brag today, because I usually wait until the last minute because I just have other things I want to do than go and get gas. I want you guys to come up with a brag. And it's not about that you're going to get something from it per se. Eric speaks to that. It's about getting with the discomfort, at least for you. Look, for you, Eric, and for a lot of people, saying something good about yourself, saying something that's a compliment, an acknowledgement for something you did, that can be very uncomfortable for a lot of people, because it potentially it's hard to be in a place of vulnerability. Ultimately, to brag is to be vulnerable. Ultimately, to receive compliments is going to require vulnerability. And if being vulnerable was not a place that you would be safe when you were young, then it's likely receiving compliments now is hard for you, even if they're compliments that are coming from yourself. So yeah, Eric, I would say the fact that this concept of things that you win at don't really light you up, and that feel sort of that feeling of meh and not that big deal, I have to tell you, I would do some work around that because it's holding you and you're trading back. There's no doubt in my mind. If you don't get a hit or a sense of accomplishment from the things that you do, then there's something going on under the hood. And I would absolutely say you guys want to know what that is, because if you imagine your vehicle, if your car is not responsive to the different things you putting on the windshield wipers, they don't come on, but something opens up in the trunk, the wires are crossed, right? You get to the bottom of that. The same should be true for all of us. Sometimes our wires are crossed, guys, and the only way we're going to be able to excel in all the departments we want to is if we start to take a look at it and we start to build up a tolerance for the discomfort. There are things we have to look at about ourselves that will be unpleasant. There are times we have to face some internal dragons, and those internal dragons are scary. But you know what's scary, guys? Not living up to your potential. That is way more scary here. And this is another truth that I first had taught to me by one of my teachers, but then lived to experience it. He used to say to me, Kim, the dragon you're so afraid to look at, when you finally get there and look it in the eye, you'll discover that that dragon actually is just a gerbil in drag. And he was so right. The things that I was so afraid to face or to feel or to potentially see in the Pandora's box, right? Which is what Eric is saying. You get to it and you're like, holy crap, is that's it? This is the thing I was the most afraid of? Like, it was not at my buildup. My fear of that fear was so much worse than the actual being with the hard to be with emotion that I was terrified to feel. That is what's so crazy, guys. You will get there one day and face that dragon or dragons, and you'll be shocked that it's not quite as intimidating or as horrific as you think it is. So Tina has a brag here. Yesterday, there was one win and one loss. I stopped trading. Why is it a brag? I didn't go on tilt and have some sort of catastrophic loss. Good job, Tina. Well done. One of the things Mama Gina taught us, when somebody brags and we want that to be the same for us, that we hope to have it, is we would be taught to rub the person's head. So I want everybody here who's a trader to metaphorically rub Tina's head, that you can have the same experience, that you can take a potential loss and not have yourself go on tilt and then have it turn into an even bigger loss, which we all know happens to traders all the time. One loss they could have dealt with, but then it rolls into a domino effect. All right. So what are the brags? I am looking for the brags. I have right now really just one and a half, I'm going to say, because Eric's is not quite a brag. All right, Adrian says, having a positive week for a change, but for 3 currently today. Adrian, let's focus on the fact that you had a positive week. And I hear you that you're 0 for 3 for today. But I'm going to invite you, Adrian, to actually repost the brag. This is another thing that happens with brags. Often we will brag and then put a caveat. But like, oh, I did XYZ, but, and the reason we do that and then this happened is because, again, it's hard for us to just sit in the wind. It's like we have to kind of like, we put it out there, but then we have to pull it back a little bit. So Adrian, I know this probably sounds crazy, but go with me here. Just put in the win. I want you to just type out the win. Yes, that is what I'm talking about, Adrian. All caps, having a positive week with multiple exclamation points. That's what I'm talking about. Now, Adrian, truly be honest if you're willing to. How did it feel to type that without a comma, without a caveat, without a something. What did it feel like to just speak to the win, to speak to that which you're bragging about, and full stop? What did that feel like? Did it feel different? That's what I'm asking you to look for. I want you guys to get into the habit of these brags, of these wins, without trying to mitigate them, without trying to diminish the shine of them. Yes, I get that, Adrian. You don't like bragging. We got a lot of that in this house right now. So, Adrian, if you're willing to share, you don't have to, but what about bragging makes you uncomfortable? What about bragging makes you uncomfortable? And this question is for everybody, because probably most people in this room are not comfortable bragging. It probably makes you uncomfortable. So I want everybody to think here, what is it that it triggers for you? It could be, as I spoke to before, a feeling of being vulnerable, right? Being potentially in a place where you could be, kind of made to feel bad about yourself. It could be because you were made wrong when you were young and taught that bragging was somehow bad or wrong or shameful, right? Could be disbelief, a feeling of like, if I get too big for my britches, then I potentially won't work hard anymore. Like, I really want you guys to dig deep about this, because that discomfort with bragging is also going to keep you from receiving. Receiving what, you ask? Everything. Receiving compliments, receiving money, receiving success in your trading account, receiving relationships that are enriching and nourishing to you. You need to see if you yourself are coming from a place of believing that to receive is somehow wrong or bad, or something that good people don't do, because then those are invisible beliefs that you're bringing to the table and to your trading every day. Tina says it was definitely something labeled as shameful for her. So I really want you guys to take a look at this. And, Eric's saying that the power of positive language, what you believe you achieve. On one hand, I'm going to kind of argue with that, Eric, because I get that to an extent, but this is when it's like that kind of a statement, that kind of, we could say positive things all day long, and that perhaps is our foot on the gas pedal. But if we have unspoken, unseen, invisible beliefs, let's just say about making a lot of money. Let's say you're working your ass off to make a lot of money. You have positive affirmations about making money. But if internally you have some invisible beliefs that think people who make a lot of money, you know what? They're kind of jerks. They're selfish. They don't think about other people. If those are your invisible beliefs, then guess what that's going to do? It doesn't matter if your foot's on the gas pedal. It doesn't matter how many positive affirmations you say. You are going to have that invisible collection of beliefs holding the brake down. So you can press the gas pedal all you want, but if you have your foot on the brake at the same time, how far are you going to go? Not far at all. So this is why I want you guys to dig deep. I want you to look under the hood of these beliefs. You likely have a collection of them. So whenever you see things like, I don't like to brag, or I don't like to, look at those dragons because I'm afraid what else might show up, right? All of this is basically you saying to me, arguing for your limitations. That's you guys arguing to keep your eyes closed. You're like, you know what, Kim, I'd rather just keep my eyes closed so I don't have to see these things that would be unpleasant to see. Like, what? Excuse me? Like, how far on the highway of life can you get, guys, if you are keeping your eyes closed to the things that are basically going to help you evolve, going to help you up level, going to help you reach those goals that you say you want? So this is what I want you guys to start to think about. All right, I'm going to take a sip of my Diet Coke. I know it's a guilty pleasure. What can I tell you guys? All right, so what are the other brags? So Adrian, you said you didn't like to brag, but I don't know if you're still here. But if you are and you're willing to share, I'm curious, what is it about bragging that is uncomfortable for you? If you're willing to share, please do, because I'm curious. And then for anybody else here, who is open to bragging, I would love to have you do it. And if it's uncomfortable, it's okay. But look, this is a live coaching conversation. This is the place to step into discomfort. This is the place where ultimately you guys are coming to probably up-level your trading. And if you want that to happen for you, you're going to have to do some things that are uncomfortable. And if you're already a trader, hell, you already do a whole bunch of things that are uncomfortable. So what's one more? Not that hard. You can handle it. All right. So what else did I want to speak about? And then this is a story which I know I have told you guys before about the pot roast and about how, that young girl looks at her mom cutting the ends off the pot roast. Acquired thinkers, I'm glad you're here. Good to have you. And how, the young girl says to her mom, like, why do you always cut the ends off the pot roast? And the mother's like, I don't even know, but that's what my mother always did. And so they go to her and they ask her, and the grandmother's like, I don't even know why. My mother always did it this way. And then lucky for this, for all of us, this story, the great-great-grandmother, she's still alive. They get back to her and they're like, how come this recipe, you always cut the ends off the pot roast? And she looks at these many generations of women following her recipe, and she says, my pot was too small. So we have a woman from a period of time where her oven was super small, her pot was really small, right? Figure it's like, Depression era, a tenement apartment. And yet we have 3 or 4 generations all doing what she did without even knowing why. I can't tell you guys how often I see clients doing the same. They are using a recipe handed down from their parents, her parents' parents, her parents' parents' parents, or culture, or belief system, or religious or cultural background. And they've never even questioned if these beliefs, if these recipes that they were given are the recipes that are actually applicable to their life. They, for the most part, me included, has learned those recipes, and we never even thought about, is that a recipe that makes sense to my life, to the day and the age I am brought into? Those in that story, you have mothers and daughters who had big enough pots. They had a big enough oven, but they still were practicing that style because they never even questioned it. They didn't even know it was afoot. And that is ultimately what each of us really has a responsibility for ourselves to do. We want to question even the beliefs that we think are positive, even the ones that we think are serving us. Put it all out on the table. Get clear. What are your beliefs about money, about success? What are your beliefs about relationships? What are your beliefs about being married? What are your beliefs about being single? What are your beliefs about health? What are your beliefs about trading? Like, think about it, guys. If you are paying any attention to, FinTwit, if you're on X, if you're in a one or more trading rooms, if you're in one or more Discord rooms, think about it. Think about how many beliefs you might have about trading that aren't even true. Like, there could be beliefs that you have about trading that you have put together as a collection of stories that you've picked up from a bunch of people, books you've read. Have you actually tested them? Have you ever sat and really contemplated, I wonder if all of these are correct or not? Maybe some of them are going to serve you and empower you greatly. Maybe some of them are going to cost you. Maybe your own relationship to hard work is going to get in your way, or your own relationship to your sense of what you're capable of. I bet you 10 to 1, there's plenty of traders who come into trading and within a very short time have some discomfort to themselves. This is not for me. I'm not strong enough, tough enough. I'm not able to be focused enough. I'm not good with numbers. Think about all the stories you have about yourself. Think about all the stories you currently have about yourself. I bet all of you have a whole bunch of statements about who you think you are, what kind of trader you think you are. What are the statements you say to yourself every single day, right? All right. I don't know what you're asking about with regards to my neck. Is my neck okay? I don't know. Is my neck hurt? I don't think so. All right. Let's see. Tom says that allows you to take more risk in investing. It does, Tom, if those are the statements you have, created for yourself. It could be that would, there are stories out there where it could dissuade people from investing. Again, it depends on the stories. It depends on the narrative. All right, Acquired Thinker says keeping it simple and focused is definitely the move for trading and investing. I would agree for you, Acquired Thinkers, and keep in mind that if and only if and only if you guys don't see that any of these statements are potentially limiting, if we aren't willing to see perhaps another perspective. So what I want to say is this is a world of polarity. And as this conversation opened, what I spoke to at the very beginning, I don't think you were here yet, Acquired Thinkers, but there was a question that I posed to a trader and asked him about what was the payoff he got from losing. What was something that actually served him by losing? How did that benefit him? And so that seems incongruent, but I kind of want to say it here too. If there's belief, and I'm just, pushing back here just to try to kind of make a point, not specific to what you've said here, but this concept of, it's got to be simple and focused, like, great. What happens if one day you get exposed to something that's a little complex and broad? Like, it could be a genius opportunity, but if you have the belief that it must be simple and it must be focused, you might not look and investigate. So this is true for everybody. All I'm suggesting here is notice the statements, the beliefs, the stories that you have for any of the important topics in your life, how you live your life, how you trade, what your relationships look like, how your health, how you treat your health, what your relationship to life is. All of these are just places to get curious about. Get curious. That is my number one advice. Stay curious, right? Start going into the place of, isn't it fascinating? I have some beliefs that are actually incongruent with some other beliefs that I have. I notice that a lot, where I'll be like so certain about a particular perspective, and then data comes in. I remember this when I was working on my book, Transforming Wall Street. I interviewed somebody that I really respected. I had an amazing conversation with him. And then he referenced two people who I won't even say who because they're just so polarizing. And he was speaking glowingly about these two people. And I was like, what? I was like, those two people, aren't they terrible though? Like I said that quietly inside my head. And I was so freaked out because I'm like, oh my gosh, this man who I respect so much is speaking so glowingly about these two other guys whose reputation, at least as far as I had read, was not that stellar. And so it showed me how stuck in a perspective I was. I went and did research and looked up these two guys. And I'm not going to say I was completely, turned around, but I learned a whole bunch more about them that I had never heard before. And I went to multiple sources so that I hopefully wasn't going to be influenced by, whatever side's political viewpoint was. And it really taught me and showed me, wow, we all easily can get stuck in a polarity, in a perspective. And what I believe facilitates real wisdom is to be able to look outside of ourselves at our beliefs, at our stories, at our catchphrases, at the proverbs that we repeat to ourselves, and stand in a place of curiosity and neutrality. And as Maggie Jackson advises and suggests, to potentially embrace uncertainty, to potentially embrace being unsure. And she basically is advocating none of us don't feel as uncomfortable with uncertainty as most of us usually do. And as I was reading her book a couple of weeks ago, I had started it, and then I had another podcast, so I had to prepare, read that book right away. I had to put hers down. But I had this decision to make, and I had two very different perspectives on how to handle this. And up until the last minute, I was really struggling, like which perspective was I going to take. I could see both. I could see the good sides, otherwise, motives behind both of these two choices of mine. And I was reading her book the night before this conversation that I had to have, where I was going to have to, probably speak to one of these two options that I had. And I was reading her book that night. And what it did for me, which was so profound, is I got that it was okay to not make the choice that evening, but to wait for the conversation the next day to unfold, to walk into it uncertain, to walk into it without sure if I was going to say A or B, and allow the conversation to reveal to me what was going to be the best direction to go. And that, for me to step into a conversation, I am very much a planner. I like to be organized. I like to have my ducks in a row. For me to step into this very important conversation with uncertainty was very different. I was stunned that I was able to do it. And it was so powerful. And it was exactly like that. When the conversation moved in a certain direction, it became clear to me which of those two options was going to be the best one for me to suggest and the best one for me to go down that road with that conversation. And it was perfect. So all this to say, get curious about your beliefs, get curious about the statements that you have, get curious about where you potentially think of yourself a certain way, and see if you can put it up on the shelf. Step into ambiguity, step into uncertainty, step into curiosity, and see if you can take a look at, are these stories, beliefs, proverbs, XYZ, are they in service to me? Is it possible they're limiting my vision? Is it possible they are cutting me off from opportunity? Is it possible they are holding me in an invisible ceiling, an invisible leash that I don't even know is there? All right, so acquired thinkers, this is how do you balance being curious but having conviction when it comes to trading? What a great question that is, acquired thinkers. I do believe that it is a razor's edge. I don't know that it is a one and done decision, but I do believe that conviction, when you have conviction, healthy, honest, powerful, experienced conviction, it comes likely from multiple experiences, multiple places of knowledge and evidence and an experience that has put it into your bones that that is what you are seeing. So I think that is a very, very important place to be. And that doesn't mean that having conviction, having confidence doesn't allow you the ability to stand also with curiosity. We can take action. We can say, I have seen this before. I am confident it's going to happen again. That is conviction. And what happens if other factors show up? That conviction, you aren't married to it. It could be that a rogue occurrence happens. And if your identity and ego is tied in any way, or identity is tied to being certain, then you won't be able to see that, curveball. This is the challenge of any trader. You do have to have this incredible confidence, and yet you never want it to spill over into hubris. So I think the key is to be able to have conviction and be able to be confident, but to never be attached to it. Because if you stay curious, then you are willing to have the market tell you why there might be an exception to the conviction this one time or this particular instance. So the key is being, again, somebody who's able to be so self-aware that you can have that conviction and confidence without being attached to being right. Because being attached to being right is not the same as conviction. It means your ego is getting involved in the process. It means your ego now has to be right. And it's like, this is what's worked before, right? There is this place where your sense of identity or that trade, it's like, it's who you are. No, it's not. It's never who you are. It's a trade. It is not personal, but it's easy to fall into that trap, especially if one is confident, if one has conviction. The key is to hold on loosely. Like over and over again, I quote that 38 Special song. I don't know, guys, if you've ever heard it. It's back in the day, but it's one of the best songs. Hold on loosely, but don't let go. That's it. But look, when you hold on loosely, it means that if you have to let go, you can do it a hell of a lot quicker than if you're locked in. Okay. All right. So keeping curiosity strong while you have the conviction. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. All right. Eric says, what does Eric say? People who are happy, they are losing. Are they reacquainting themselves with loss or just masochistic? I think it could be. And Ed Seykota has a very famous quote that says, I just did a podcast with Stephen Goldstein. He's a trading coach as well. His book is called Mastering the Mental Game of Trading. So good, guys. You absolutely should read it. He specifically references Ed Seykota's very famous quote where he says that basically traders get what they want from the market. And that means the traders that lose, they are getting the reward of losing money from the market. So I don't know that it's necessarily masochistic. I believe what that is an indicator that they have a belief, perhaps inside there's a payoff. That's what he's trying to say, that whatever happens in our life, in our journey, in our trading, right, it's going to ultimately be what we believe we are, kind of worthy of, if you will. If we don't take a hard look at the unconscious beliefs, the invisible beliefs or stories, we're going to play them out in our life. We are going to create that which we expect to happen. So I don't know if it's so much masochistic. It could be for some, but I think mostly it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, oh, it's really, if you have a belief that you should only have so much success, then you're going to stop at that line of success, whatever it might be for you. All right, Cynthia says, how do I overcome those limiting beliefs, especially if they are rooted from childhood? So great question, Cynthia. The first step for any of us, because a lot of us have a bunch of beliefs that are limiting from our childhood, not just because they were told to us, but because we saw our parents live them, practice them. The first step is collecting what they are. Start to notice, start to put down on paper what are the limiting beliefs you suspect you have. Another book I'm going to mention here that I like a lot is a book called Marriage of Spirit. And it's a book that gives us an exercise called the squares exercise, which allows us to be with the polarities. And it gives us a whole bunch of samples of statements of beliefs that we potentially have. So Cynthia, I would say first come up with a nice long fat list of all the beliefs that you have. Now, you say here you have limiting beliefs, but I don't want you to stop just on the ones you've labeled limiting. I want you to also write down all the beliefs you have, period, because there could be positive beliefs that are sabotaging you, right? So the key is start to identify what are the beliefs you have, and don't judge yourself because of them, and don't even judge your parents or their parents. This is not about making anybody wrong. This is not about judgment, guys. This is about neutral observation. Like a scientist, go into your mind, go into your belief systems, and start to see what's there. What's under the hood? Oh, I have these beliefs about money, these beliefs about poverty, these beliefs about trading, these beliefs about, people different than me. Like, just start to collect all the beliefs you have. Start with the ones that are accessible, and then go from there. All right. All it's about is that if we never look at these stories, proverbs, beliefs that we have, they potentially are invisibly running the show. And I would really prefer for everybody here to not have anything invisibly drive your show. I want you guys to be conscious and awake and eyes wide open to whatever is running your vehicle. I want you to be very aware and to be able to be discriminatory in the beliefs you are going to adhere to. I want you to be very selective that the beliefs you are living and trading by are going to empower you and lift you up. All right, I'm going to end there, guys. Another little friendly reminder that next Thursday will be the start of my new trading acceleration group. I'd love you guys to come if you feel it would serve you. I think that worked. Let's see, you guys will have to tell me. Anyway, this is an acceleration group for 6 weeks for traders. I call it an acceleration program. And it's specifically going to address topics on money, fear of failure, fear of missing out, discipline, what your relationship to that is, greed, and how to manage your ego, and how to manage hubris. So Thank you for being here, Adrian. It's a pleasure to have you here. We had some new people in the room. We had some old regulars in the room. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I hope this served you. Please spread the word and check out the acceleration group and see if that's for you. Alex, I'm so glad you were here. Thank you for coming. How do we sign up for that group? Here is the link, Cynthia, for you. Please check it out and see what you think. It's a 6-week intensive for traders. Oh, mahalo to you too, Esen. I like the Hawaiian. And Marcerie says, what about the frozen state? Marcerie, if you don't mind, because I have to close up now, please bring that question to next Wednesday. I do this almost every Wednesday at about this time. Usually it's about 7:30, 7:45, 8 p.m. Eastern. And my name, of course, is Kim Curtin, the Wall Street Coach. You guys can find me on Twitter. You can find, out more about me on this YouTube channel. I also do podcasts, which you guys probably know already. And I want you guys to watch that Stephen Goldstein podcast interview. It's such a gem. And Maggie Johnson, of course, she'll be on in the next couple of weeks for her book, Uncertain. I'm excited for all of you. See what's going to happen. Cindy, I'm excited to see what comes of these lists of beliefs. And I am so impressed with all the conversations and comments today. You guys are terrific at being vulnerable and sharing some of your journey. And I want you to keep an eye out for the brags. I want you guys to come next week with a brag or two. Okay. All right. I'm going to say aloha for now.